Yes, Frosty Mariana. I'm on town council in Carbondale, Colorado. We're a small little town. We got two red lights here sit in the Roaring Fork Valley between Aspen and Glenwood Springs. Highway 82 has been historically one of the biggest roadkill areas in the state. And so I, would see that daily driving from Carbondale to Basalt. I'd see the carnage. I'd see a new animal almost every day that would be hit. And, over the last couple of years, I don't know how many people that I've talked to that said, well, I hit an elk in last year and totaled my car. And there's been some tragic accidents from people in wildlife collisions. And again, I mentioned a while ago that you can't put a value on a person's life, but we had a state trooper with two young children that hit a herd of deer a couple of years ago, and was just a tragic circumstance where he lost his life. And we've had, if you pay attention to these people that get killed and read their stories, I mean, these are all tragedies that could have been prevented, at least 80% of them, with a fencing and crossing strategy.
ARC is about building bridges. It's an international design competition in which we sought creative and innovative solutions for a new type of wildlife crossing infrastructure. At its most basic, it's about reconciling conflict between roads and wildlife, people and animals. It's about getting us all where we need to go safely and at a lower cost. But ARC is more than that. It's also about building bridges between science and policy, between transportation, engineering, ecology, and design, and in the process, reconnecting our landscapes. At the largest level, ARC is about reaffirming the importance of connected, linked landscapes in our culture.
Doing something innovative like the wildlife crossings really is that we're trying to attack the problem from a smarter, more innovative way. What we all know, the highest price we pay is the human toll and lives lost by animal vehicle collisions. But we also know that the cost to repair cars is going up. And an average animal vehicle collision is about $2,900. And the insurance company pays out more than $1 billion a year in claims from animal vehicle collisions. So as we see those costs to repair cars go up, we see the number of animal vehicle collisions go up. That is a price we're all paying through our insurance premiums. So this is, if we can do anything to reduce the number of animal vehicle collisions we have on the roadways, that goes a long way to what we pay out in premiums.
There's a whole new field of context-sensitive solutions where engineers and planners and ecological professionals are working together to try to make sure that wetlands are dealt with, that public impacts are dealt with, and in this case wildlife impacts are dealt with, so that again the highway works with the surrounding environment rather than the highway just being plopped down and everything else suffering.
Well, one of the great challenges of managing National Forest System lands are that we have so many competing values, various things that are of equal importance that we have to consider. Obviously, transportation corridors are important so people can access their public lands and also just to support the economy of this country. At the same time, one of the main reasons people come to places like the state of Colorado is to enjoy the wildlife that exists in such a beautiful, spectacular setting. So anything that helps us bring these competing values into balance is something that's of just a huge benefit to the Forest Service in managing the public lands.
I think it can be a national example of how, at the same time we provide a critical piece of our national transportation infrastructure, we can also provide wildlife crossings that allow greater habitat areas for some of our threatened species.
Trying to maintain wildlife connectivity all along I-70 is important. In the 1990s, we kind of termed I-70 as the Berlin Wall for wildlife. Well, if you look at this upper part of Vail Pass, you're looking at almost every species. Vail Pass has the distinction of ending up with a roadkill for all but 3 species of wildlife in Colorado. This location is so important, and you look at the development of I-70 from Denver to here, this is one of the few areas that has 2 wildernesses on either side. On the west side, you have the Holy Cross Wilderness, and on the east side, we have the Eagle's Nest. This provides an excellent spot for animals to have that access between those 2 wildernesses. Wildlife is a huge economic driver in Colorado, over $1.8 billion a year, not just in big game, but small game, fishing, and watchable wildlife. So anything we can do to maintain that diversity and the economic driver along with that connectivity is going to be a key issue for us.
I think encouraging creativity and creative and new approaches from across the world to meet the dual goals that we have with our corridor is a terrific way to get the best ideas from everywhere.
The world animals are typically going to be crossing highways today may be different 50 or 100 years from now, not only because of changes in vegetation, but also the effect of climate change on vegetation, also species distributions. Traditionally, most wildlife overpasses have been really heavy on the engineering, heavy in terms of the structure, the amount of fill. The wildlife overpasses in Banff have 2 meters of structural fill and topsoil. Nobody's really looked at whether or not these structures could also have less fill, building them lighter, recycled materials, things of that sort, which could lower the cost of wildlife overpasses.
In previous designs for roadway infrastructure, they really haven't involved the design professions per se. They've been designed by transport engineers, and they've been designed in the most expeditious way possible using available technology. And what we sought to do with this design competition was to reach out to the design professions specifically: landscape architecture, design engineering, structural engineering, and ecology. And we required the teams fundamentally to be interdisciplinary. And we were very successful. We attracted over 100 firms on 36 teams who entered the competition, and the 5 finalist teams represent all of those disciplines equally.
We have tried to create a bridge that uses local resources and is sustainable. This low-tech approach, in conjunction with very local available material, can need a small amount of machinery and therefore energy. So we have a CO2 balance of the bridge superstructure, which is either neutral or even positive. The bridge body stores really more CO2 than was needed for production.
Seeing the FAA scurry around deal with bird strikes gives us an indication, I think, of how even a much smaller problem can get a tremendous amount of attention. Imagine the value that crossing has. It certainly pays for itself many times over, and if you think of these costs are every year, so that $8 billion happens year after year. Why we're not building many of these wildlife crossings is more the question. If we don't start solving these problems now, I'm afraid they'll only get worse. The other opportunity is to show how successful a wildlife crossing can be at reducing the costs of animal-vehicle conflicts.
I think the unique aspect of the Olin plan is that it is modular and adaptable, not just with regard to the structure, but with regard to the landscape itself, so that, in fact, our design solution can become the 21st century solution for the federal highway system. And that is the excitement of the Olin plan, that deals with these 2 very different systems, one static system and one living system, but in the context of one form.
We pushed the boundaries by creating a very strong icon that we believed would inspire curiosity and help to bring recognition to the wildlife crossing. And we did that by using the color red to achieve this, because red is the only color that most animals do not perceive, but that human beings can see. In a way, it's sort of like a secret code by which you can communicate to people that we share the landscape with other living beings, and that beyond these roads there exist complex animal habitats that we must be mindful.
One crossing is not enough. You need a network. So we made a solution that is very cost-effective, and it can be used in all kinds of situations. It's very light construction. It has a repetitive design elements in it. It's an parametrical design, so you can reuse all the fabric formwork invented for that. And, well, it's a very sustainable solution, and you can use it on many spots.
There's a great beauty about them, particularly some of them have managed to achieve beauty through simplicity, delightfulness and playfulness, which has been quite inspiring. I think the whole idea of taking the landscape over the road is very poetic.
We can easily say today, in part based on the success of this competition process, these are no longer design or technical challenges. We have every capacity to implement these kinds of practices. What we really need is political and economic and social leadership. We can say we have solutions to these problems. These are no longer challenges which exceed professional or technical limits. It has to do with what aspirations our society has.
The important thing about the competition is its assertion of a role for design in a circumstance that's usually built to the lowest common denominator for a basic engineering standard.
The jury was really impressed by the high quality of all of the entries, and after our deliberations, we arrived at a unanimous decision in favor of the entry by HNTB with Michael Van Valkenburg Associates.
I think the most important thing about the winning entry is the way in which it uses ordinary materials in an extraordinary way. And what that does is to create something that's so possible here in this situation that it changes the way we think about what's possible in many, many situations.